Well, hello, everybody. Hi. I just want to say hello and thank you for joining us. If you are, if you're watching us in the future, or I guess in the future, thank you for joining us too. Today, I'm going to be here with a good friend of mine, Yot. How you doing, sir?
I'm so great. Thanks for having me here again, JJ. How are you?
I'm doing great, sir. So how about you just introduce yourself real quick for everybody, so everyone can say hi.
But everybody knows me already. No, just kidding. Hi everyone. Yotam from Tab 9. I'm their developer advocate, and today I'm here because I know nothing about Docker, and I feel ashamed about that. But JJ was kind enough to teach me a thing or two, and this is why I'm here today.
Perfect. Yes. And that's got to be a lie. You've obviously tried Docker before, but we're going to go ahead and start from the beginning. But yes, hello. I'm JJ. I'm a developer advocate for IBM Cloud, and as Yot said, and we are going to be doing some fun stuff with Docker today. If you've never touched it before, our goal for this stream is to be able to check to basically get everything you need to know. So you start dangerous with it, so you can actually, when you pull down a Docker container, you kind of understand what's actually happening. I've done a couple of trainings in the past with other students, and if you saw on our stream on earlier with Tab 9, you'd have noticed that we accidentally touched that sphere, and Yot was very excited to learn this stuff.
And this is why we're here today.
Perfect. Awesome. Great to see that, Cavis Mayor. Hopefully you'll be able to learn some stuff from this too. I'm going to go ahead and drop our names off here. If you ever have any questions or thoughts, don't hesitate to throw them in the chat. As you can see, we're actually sophisticated enough to pull in questions so we can answer them as they happen, which is pretty damn cool in my opinion.
Definitely. And I see that Francesco is here. Francesco, hi. Thanks for joining us.
Nice. So we should just probably start here before we go any farther. What is Tab 9? Just so we can feel like we actually talk about the company you work for.
We can definitely do that. Tab 9 is an AI-powered auto-completion extension for pretty much every coding language out there. It's a very basic yet very complicated, I would say. Under the hood it's complicated, but you get it out of the box pretty neat and easy to use. That's an extension that you can add to your IDE, no matter what IDE you're using, and it understands what you're doing. It works locally, so we don't send your code anywhere, and we're not training our AI models on your code. And it just helps you write better code more accurately with less typos and the correct syntax, and just to work in an easy way that makes your life feel so much better without going to Stack Overflow and searching online for the snippet that you need. Try it out.
Yeah. I will say I am a convert. I did from after our stream, have been using Tab 9 on quite a bit of my software that I do, and it pops up inside of my Vim. Like I use like old school Vim as my text editor, and it works inside of there. And it just is like, hey, by the way, you're probably tthinking about putting this in here, aren't you? And I'm like, I am. Wait, how did you know that? Kind of thing. So I'm truly a convert, and Tab 9 really has made my cognitive overhead a lot less, which is really nice. So
yeah, that's the mind reading effect that people keep talking about all the time. What is going on here, and how did this extension knew what I was going to do?
That's exactly right. Feznuts, hey buddy. He's a red hatter. He's great. And he shows up at a lot of our streams, so it's great to see you here, Feznuts. And here we go. And we got someone from Fire S saying, I brought Tab 9 recently, and it's great. So looks like we've got some love from Tab 9 across the board. But okay, so Yo, how about you share your screen, and let's just start from the beginning. Let's just go.
Let's do it. So as you instructed me, I have just an empty folder here. I called it Docker Playground because I feel like this is going to be fun. I hope this is going to be fun.
Okay.
So guide me through.
Yes, absolutely. The next thing, we'll go ahead and bring up your terminal because we're going to have to run some commands inside of the terminal to get started. The only preface that Yot has done, so you can start this as long as you've installed the Docker desktop or local installation of Docker. So if you type Docker space hello-world for me.
In a string or just like that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Like Docker run hello-world.
Oh.
Already making a mistake. Already making a mistake.
Okay, Docker run hello world, just like this?
Dash world. I'm sorry. Dash world. And you want to make that terminal just a little bit taller. Just a little bit taller.
Okay.
And we haven't practiced this, so we're gonna have stumbles and falls, and that's fine because it's a learning experience.
All the time. This is part of the fun here. So
sorry. All one word. All one word. Sorry. Hello. Yeah. Up arrow. Take away that space. Take away that space.
Take away that space. Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Hello world.
Yep. Just like Francisco just told us, we're always 20 seconds behind because you gotta love the streaming delay. So so right there, what we just did is we pulled down the generic Hello World Docker container from Docker Hub. And this is our kind of like sanity check to make sure that Docker's installed correctly. You can run a Docker command, which is Docker run, to make sure it's Docker working. And as it tells you, it's just making sure that you're running the correct version of Docker, the what's it called? The compile time. So as you see, it's AMD 64 because you can actually build Docker containers for like ARM or ZOS or I think it's called S390. So you need to make sure that you're talking to the correct backend to make sure that everything runs. So that's already a huge plus. It means that you've installed it, you're running, and now you can run arbitrary Docker commands.
That's the parallel to git status, sort of.
Yes, exactly. So it's just it's a great test, especially if you decide to put Docker inside your CI and CD pipelines. It's always good to run a Docker Hello World at the very beginning. So if you need to do Docker builds or anything like that, it'll Jenkins or whatever CI pipeline you have will fail out immediately if something's broken. So you don't get a container at the end that could be in a broken state because you couldn't talk to the registry or whatever. So it's good to know. So it actually tells you to use the Ubuntu one right there, but because I work for this company called IBM, we're going to use Fedora or CentOS instead. So if you can type for me, Docker run -it is in Indigo Taylor.
Oh, wait a second.
You'll eventually alias Docker to the letter D because you'll just hate typing it out so much.
So Docker run, what's next?
Dash IT is in Indigo Taylor.
Oh.
Space. IT is in Taylor.
Oh, IT, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then type CentOS : latest.
You'll have to do it again. You'll have to say it again, JJ. I'm so sorry.
Is it cutting out? Is the sound cutting out on you?
No. I'm hearing you just fine. I just didn't understand what you said.
Sure. Cent. C is in Charlie. E is in Edward. N is in Nancy.
Cent.
Yep.
Yeah.
OS. Oliver.
OS, yeah.
All one word.
CentOS, yeah. Oh, CentOS.
Yes. Colon. The colon 2 dots.
Yeah.
Yep. Latest. LATEST.
Latest.
Yep. Space. /bin/bash.
/bash.
No spaces.
No spaces.
Yep. Believe it or not, that command right there, before you hit enter, let's just talk about it for a second. That command right there will become one of your best friends.
So,
CentOS can be. It's an operating system. CentOS or Fedora or RHEL or Ubuntu for that matter. If you notice above right there, try something more ambitious. You can run the Ubuntu container. In essence, what we are doing right there, we're going to tell it to use CentOS instead. CentOS 8 specifically, because that's what latest is.
Okay,
Latest
got it.
is the tag, right? Is like the version that you're going. So you can actually do CentOS 7, the number 7, and it'll pull down the CentOS 7 container. We're going to go with latest because I just like using latest.
Okay.
By default, if you don't put a tag, it'll actually do latest. It's just a good habit to always make sure you do it. So if you go ahead and enter for me.
Unable to find image CentOS latest. But it's running.
Exactly. So it tried to look locally first, and that's really important to mention. Whenever you run Docker, it'll look at your local containers first to see what versions you have there before going out to different registries, which is where it stores. By default, if you notice that library CentOS, that is the Docker Hub registry called library that are official containers. There are different registries out there like Quay and GitHub have their own registries too. So it's good to know. You can pull your containers from there. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but we're just trying to get a container up and going.
Would you say that going for the latest version is a best practice?
So it turns out it actually Francisco actually mentioned something along those lines. It turns out so that's a loaded question. There's a lot of different ways of going here. What the best practice is to always use a tagged version of a container, right? So just like you're releasing software, you don't just put master or main out onto your production environment. You put version 1, 2, 3 out to your environment, right? Just like a container, you need to make sure that you're using a versioned or a tagged version of the container. So for me, because I don't care, I just use latest. But if I was doing something more production-like, I would make sure that I even go all the way down to the git SHA, which I'll show you here in a second, where you want that very specific version of the container to run. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, so now we ran the Docker run command, and now we've pulled down this container. And if you notice, your command prompt changed. Can you tell me what does that look like to you?
The command prompt is what happened here?
Yeah, what happened? So what we are, yeah, go ahead.
Wait a second. Let's see. Find it. Now it downloaded newer images and this latest, and now I guess. Okay, you'll have to explain this to me.
Yeah. So what have we done? That IT right there, the -IT is opens up a TTY session and interactive, hence IT, into the actual Docker container. And that Docker container emulates almost exactly, there's caveats, but let's just say exactly a CentOS VM. I mean, it's not 100% a VM, but just for simplicity's sake, we'll call it a VM. So in essence, you have a CentOS VM on your machine sitting right there that you can type DNF or yum install HTTPD. Go ahead.
All right. You said I can choose either.
Either one.
You said
yum or DNF. Yeah, just do DNF. We're supposed to be using DNF.
Okay.
Space install.
HTTPD. HTTPD?
Yep.
I heard correctly? Okay. Yep.
So as you see there, we're going out to the app stream for CentOS Linux 8. We're pulling down everything, and yep, go ahead and say yes.
Okay. Wait, I'm just taking a look here.
Sure. So Spitfire 400 went ahead and asked, so now we're in the root OS of OS VM. So again, I use VM as a very heavy term there. It's not technically a VM, it's a container, but let's not get into that nuance quite yet. But in essence,
we can go into that later.
Yeah, exactly. But right now, yes, we are root in that container that is emulating, or in essence, is CentOS 8. So if he types yes right here, right now.
Without
But he's
further
actually,
ado,
yep, go ahead and say yes again. He's actually going to install HTTPD, which is the default web browser, inside this container. We're not going to run it, but I just want to prove to you that you can install anything you'd normally do in CentOS just right here. And Spitfire, exactly correct. In essence, all containers are a lot like VMs. There's very specific nerdy differences, but for the conversation we're having today, just consider them VMs so you don't get lost in the technical details when we don't have to worry about it.
I will. Okay.
So there we go. We've installed HTTPD. So if you want to do, we could start HTTPD if we wanted to. There's a lot of different things, but what I want to show to you next is if you go ahead and hit Control D for me. So log out of the container or type exit. It doesn't matter. Just get out of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no. Bring the terminal back up. We're going to need that terminal for a while.
Okay. Okay, so just Control D, you said?
Or exit. Yeah, just like you're a normal VM. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, if you type Docker space PS is in Paul Sugar.
Yeah, so Docker PS. That's the command, enter?
Correct, yep.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that Docker. Yeah, don't worry about that Docker101 tutorial. That's something else running in the background that you're probably going through. But you're going to actually want to kill that because we're going to, we'll walk around that. So if you notice, when you exited your container above, we actually exited out of the container and it stopped running. So it's no longer running. So if you do actually Docker PS space -A for me.
-E?
A is in alpha, and then make a space between it, if you don't mind. At the beginning. PS space -A.
Okay.
Enter. As you notice there, at the very top, about 6 minutes ago, and you exited 0 about a minute ago, that's our CentOS latest container. So we know about the container that ran, right? It's sitting there, but we created it and it's stopped. So let's go ahead and try to get back into it, shall we? Because it's stopped. Might as well start it up. So if you go ahead and hit the up arrow a couple times.
Hit what a couple times?
The up arrow.
Oh, yeah.
A couple more times. There we go. And go ahead and enter.
This one? Send us latest? Yeah, okay.
Well, hey, that was pretty fast. Did you notice how quickly that came in? That was pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that surprising to you?
No, hopefully it's surprising to you because you'll notice how quickly it is you can get back in your container.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So we installed something in the container above, right? What did we install?
What was it? Above. You mean the thing that popped in the tutorial?
No. The when I asked you to do that DNF install thing, what was that for?
Oh, right. Where is it? I can't remember. What was it again? Come again?
It was HTTPD.
All right.
So go ahead and just type HTTPD for me real quick.
Okay.
And hit enter. Hey, wait a second. That's not cool. All right, try that DNF install HTTPD for me. It should be there, right? So it shouldn't install anything. It should be fine. It should be good.
It should.
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting back into that container, right?
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, you see where I'm going with this.
I see where you're going with this.
Oh, it's not there. So we have to. Okay, so that's weird. Go ahead. No, it's fine. What I'm trying to do is trying to show you that every single time you run a container, especially in this interactive mode, if you don't do anything to it, it's a completely virgin container. There's nothing new in it. It's just the base installation, right? So if one of my better examples, also if you do DNF install Vim, VIM, do you know how to use Vim?
I never used Vim actually, but let's play around.
Okay, this might be a little bit weird, but we'll go with it. because I have to tell you some weird commands, but it's fine. It's fine. Go ahead and hit yes. We'll let that install. And what I want you to do is type vim space blah.txt for me.
Vim blah text?
No, sorry. You got to hit yes on that one.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay. And then vim space blah.txt.
Again, vim what text?
Just anything. It doesn't matter. Blah.
Oh, okay.
Temp. It doesn't matter. Or you just one. Sorry. Blah space dot. Yeah, there we go. Fine. Enter.
With the text, right?
No. Remove the, sorry. I'm thinking out loud. Yeah, just blah. That's fine. Perfect.
Okay.
Type I for me.
I.
And then type hi JJ. Okay. And then type escape for me.
Type escape?
Oh no. Sorry. Hit the escape button.
Yeah, sure.
Colon WQ.
WQ.
Yep. Lowercase. Yep. Thank you. All right. Now type CAT as in cat. CAT.
This is all like weird magic going on here. I have no idea what's going on.
It's fine. I'll walk you through it all. Don't worry.
No, this is why I'm here. Okay. So what do I type in next?
Cat. CAT.
Yeah.
Blah. BLAH.
Okay.
Enter.
Cat blah.
Okay. So let me just tell you what we did, and then I'll take you to the next step about Docker to make sure it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we did is we installed Vim in a container that had nothing in it, because as you saw, we didn't have HTTPD anymore. We just installed Vim to be able to write something to it, right? When you opened up Vim, you created a file called blah, and I asked you to type hello JJ in it. That -I puts you in insert mode, and we can talk about that stuff later. But the point being is you entered some text into a file. Then you wrote quit it, or WQ, and you came out of it, and you used the cat command, which is concatenate, to output the file to our terminal. So as you see there now, we have cat blah. So we actually, if you do an ls-l, we have a file called blah with text inside of it now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. As you see right there, it should say blah wherever it is.
We have the blah.
Perfect. Okay. So
this is so cool.
I got this gray beard from something. I don't know what it was. It might be something. Okay, so let's take it to the next step. And to reiterate what we just learned about the HTTPD thing, if you type exit now.
Yeah.
All right.
Just exit?
Yep. Just exit.
Yeah.
Now hit the up arrow twice. Oh, sorry, back. Down. There we go. Let's go back into the container.
Okay. And now the container will include the Vim and the file that I created?
Well, type cat blah. Let's see if it's there. Oh, what? What is that? What? Okay. So Yot.
Was this intended? Was this intended? Just tell me.
It was. Yes.
Okay.
It absolutely was. Just as Francisco discovered, this is another container, right? Like this is it's just another container. And just like Bedwali said,
because the container is stateless.
Correct.
Do explain.
Yes. So every time you run a container, it is unless you give it specific permissions, which we will in a little bit. It doesn't know anything about the state. That's where the Docker files come into play, where you can layer these things on top of it, i.e., installing Vim for us onto the actual container. So when you build it, it takes the base image and then puts a layer of what changes you want on top of it. And then you can actually put even more layers of your code or whatever. So for instance, if you had a Python application, you wouldn't need to use the CentOS version of a container. you could use the Python versions that only has Python and then put like your source code inside of it, or your node code inside of the node container. Or if you're a masochist like me, you could use the CentOS container and build out Node as a very specific version to put your code inside of that. So it allows you to have choice to be able to make sure you can build up the container to be what it needs to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And just go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just as Francisco said, the numbers after that @ sign is actually the ID of the container, which is a great point. So if you do exit again for me.
Yeah. Right. Let's go back here.
Don't worry. We're going to get into the Docker file here in just a second.
Okay. Oh. Okay. So I think. Oh, like exit? Wait, but
yeah,
why can't I type? Okay.
And it seems that Ben Waldley has already seen where I'm going with this. And yes, we are about to create our own image with Vim inside of it in just a second. You're spoiling my narrative here, Ben Waldley. Thanks a lot for that.
I will pretend as if it never been said. I'm gonna look very surprised. Don't worry.
Perfect. So if you do that Docker space ps-a.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, there are all of the containers we've run. As you see, there are 3 different ones because we ran 3 different containers. There are 3 stateless containers that only know about what's going on at that moment. So as you see, that container ID matches that at root sign. So where you type exit up there, you'll notice the container ID is the same right there.
Then these are the IDs, right?
Correct. And you notice you just go up a couple of lines where you typed exit. You'll see that 97 is the exact same one right there. So you can kind of see that they do match. And you can even go by the name, but we're not going to worry about all that stuff. But the point being is what in essence, when you first start the container up, it's ephemeral. It doesn't stick around, and it only deals with whatever you give it at that moment. And as soon as you exit it, if you haven't done anything else special to it, it will forget about everything it has. So let's take it to the next step, which is let's actually make sure Vim is there for us every time we decide to use it, right? Because we should probably edit our text, and we should probably have Vim inside of our container. So in your Docker playground, nice. Create a file for me called D Docker file.
Okay. Docker file.
Right. Perfect. Now enter.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think it's lowercase f. It gets picky about that kind of stuff.
Okay. Docker file.
Yep.
Just like that, yeah?
Yep. And then go ahead and make that a little bit smaller. Perfect. And if we go there, so I'm gonna send this to you. Or actually, I'll just put it in the chat. Maybe you can just copy and paste it.
Okay.
That's not gonna help. Hang on. I'll put this in the private chat we have. There we go. So if you want to go ahead and just copy and paste all that, I'm not going to tell you how to type all that out because that's just going to be painful.
Sure.
What we're going to do here is I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening. Okay. So we've already played with that CentOS latest. That should look familiar, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yum install is the same as DNF install. So we can actually just change Yum to DNF if you wanted to.
Okay, let's do it.
Just to make sure we're doing the same thing. We're telling, we're going to put a layer on there, Vim, and we want to create a directory called /Vim. Work directory means that is what I'm going to do inside. I'm going to start my application or whatever I'm doing inside the container in that directory. So instead of doing that /, as you notice that when we did that ls-l, you should have noticed like the same format that a / partition has on a Linux box. It's because our work directory by default isn't in /root. It's actually /. So work directory or work dir tells you to move over there. And then entry point is the next thing I want to teach you on top of this Docker file is an entry point is when you start a container, instead of us going to the bash command, when we build this container, it's actually going to just start up Vim for us immediately. So we're not going to have to type Vim file name. We're just going to be immediately into Vim, which is pretty cool if you think about it. So
definitely. And
go ahead.
Of course, I'm thinking about all the possibilities now that can be done. I run them through my head.
Yes, so we'll get there. Don't get me wrong, we'll get there, but we'll stop there. And Lando actually had a great question. Please tell them we're going straight to Docker Compose. Before we even get to Docker Compose, Lando, unfortunately, we're going to be playing just generic containers initially because I want to make sure Yot has a solid foundation to be able to understand if we do get to Docker Compose, which is a little bit farther down the line, he'll understand what's going on because Yot has very little experience here, and I want to make sure you got the perfect foundation. So when you start touching more advanced stuff, you're not like, what the hell is going on? So, okay, so go ahead and save that file for me if you don't mind.
I'm still in the state of what the hell is going on, but I'm having fun.
Perfect.
All right. Yeah, the file is saved.
So Francisco asked a great question here. Can you ask why you're creating that Vim directory and using the Vim as the workdir? Shouldn't it be enough to use the workdir for Vim, and that will create the directory for you? I don't believe actually it does create the directory. If it does, then cool. It's then superfluous to have that makedir, but I wanted to be very explicit about what I'm doing here for Yot to make sure that everything comes together. Okay, cool. So if you go ahead and make that terminal just right up to the the line 4, just to make sure we have enough space there.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah Shara here, then we're straight going to the Kubernetes. No, we'll actually go to OpenShift, which might actually be, if we, at the rate we're going, we might get to at least some fun stuff on the cloud side, but believe it or not, we've made it a significant different distance already, which is always nice. Okay, cool. So now we understand how to do a Docker run command. Now let's actually go ahead and build our first container. So go ahead and if you have that Docker file, wherever Docker file is, you can just type Docker space build.
Docker space build, yeah.
Yep. Space period. So you're telling, hey, Docker build, by default, this thing called a Docker file in this directory. That's all we're doing.
Okay.
Go ahead and enter for me.
Yeah.
There we go. And it looks like we're inside inside the chat, we've figured out that I am wrong, and it happens. But the beauty of it is I'm running the stream, so I can be wrong and own it, and that's fine. Okay.
And we still love you.
There you go. It's fine. It's fine to be wrong. It's fine to be wrong. So you learned something new.
I'm wrong 90% of the time, and I'm still surviving around. So
there you go.
I guess you're okay.
What's the joke? I'm wrong 90% of the time, 100% of the time, or something like that.
Yeah.
The stat actually wrong. Anyway. Okay. So what we've done there is as you saw, we did the Docker build command. As some really neat stats came out, we made sure that our Docker library CentOS is there. We did that run command, as you see right there. And then we did that workdir to make sure /vim is there. And then we exported the layers out, and we created that cool, nice long writing image SHA. That SHA should look relatively familiar to you. Does it?
It isn't actually. It
was a little bit of a deep cut. It should look a lot like a Git SHA. If you did a Git SHA on something, it's a 256 SHA. It's just standard, especially if you use Git every day. I was hoping that might reference. Nothing? Okay, that's fine.
Now I see it. Yeah, of course.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay.
So back to what I was saying earlier about the versioning on your containers. That is actually the SHA that you could reference in a Docker file or that Docker run to make sure that you will always run that container, which is pretty cool. You can also tag it, which I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But let's actually run this container first that we just built. So if you go and do Control R for me.
Control R.
Yep. And type run, R-U-N.
Yeah.
All right. And then put the right arrow, go all the way to latest. Or sorry,
All
take
the
it.
way
That's
to,
yep. Oh no, go ahead
all
and
the way.
hit exit. Type exit. Hit enter.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right, hit up arrow, and then take away that take away from bash all the way down to run IT.
Okay.
And right there, perfect. Or space, and then grab that SHA
Mm-hmm.
in
Oh,
your
okay.
clipboard, and then paste
The
it in there.
whole.
Yep.
Okay. Including the SHA.
Oh no, not including the SHA. I'm sorry, my bad.
Okay. Just this one.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then paste that in there, and hit enter.
Okay.
Hey, what's that?
Is this Vim running in my terminal right now?
Yes, it is. You ran your container, and now you have a Vim instance running right there. So just go ahead.
I'm shocked.
Nice. So if you go,
witchcraft.
yeah, right. So I'm going to run another couple commands by you just to make sure that we kind of just see what's going on. So if you type colon,
Mm-hmm.
E is in Edward,
Yeah.
space,
Mm-hmm.
dot, period, or dot,
Yeah.
and then just hit enter. So what is, if you notice here, this is the file, what's the word I'm looking for? Explorer inside of Vim. And if you notice on that third line, we are in that /Vim directory.
In that /Vim directory. You mean here?
No, up two lines.
Oh, you mean here?
Right there. Yep.
Okay.
So just as we declared inside of our Docker file, we are now in that /Vim directory. So if we wrote a file to it, it would actually be there, which is pretty cool. But again, because these are ephemeral, these aren't saved. So let's actually try to get a file saved inside of that Vim directory from outside the container.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead and do a colon for me.
Okay. Oh, wait. Yeah.
And then Q.
Mm-hmm.
To quit. Yep. No, just Q. Just Q.
Oh, okay.
And as you saw, what happened?
Use the Docker scan. Wait, it's
Mike, I appreciate that. That it is true. You just got to do this every day, and all of a sudden, it's just like dealing with computers on your Mac or your Linux box before you know it.
So what happened here now?
So because we stopped the container, because our entry point is Vim, right? So the only thing we're running on the container, which could be Node, it could be Python, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But for Vim, it's a very easy example where we started the container, we immediately dropped into Vim. We could use it whenever we need to, but as soon as we exited Vim, well, the container only knows that Vim is supposed to be running, and now it's gone. So leave it.
So everything like nothing ever happened.
Exactly. So again, it's stateless, right? It doesn't need to know anything. But what we're going to do is we're going to give it a little bit of state knowledge now, so we can keep it going over time. So go ahead and open up that little what is it called? Magnifying glass for me. Yep, and create another text file of like, I don't know, text.txt. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Just a file. Perfect. Yes. And put something fun inside of it for us. There we go. I like it.
Yep.
I like it. Perfect.
Docker's fine. That's fine too.
Perfect. I love it.
Okay.
So go ahead and save that.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, we're gonna get on a little more advanced stuff here. And what we're gonna do is go back to your terminal.
I'm right here.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm gonna send this command to you real quick, and if you want to go ahead and copy and paste it in.
Will do.
Right there. Okay, and then nope. Up arrow. space,
Mm-hmm.
and then grab that SHA that we had, that really nice long SHA, and then paste it at the end. Perfect. And don't hit enter yet.
Okay.
Don't hit enter yet. Let's talk about what's going on here. So what's different about this command?
Let's see. Run. Version. You'll have to explain.
Okay. So it should look relatively, the only difference is that -v is in Victor.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll notice a %pwd:/vim. Now,
Something about choosing the current version that we're working on.
Close, very close. Go ahead and hit Control A for me real quick, or go back to the terminal and hit Control A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then put in a hashtag or hash symbol or pound symbol, however you call it. Hit enter for me. And Benwali has already gone ahead and spoiled it. PWD is current directory. So if you go ahead and do echo $PWD just like that for me real quick.
Echo $PW. Oh wait. Echo $PWD with the brackets, with the curly braces.
Yep. Be sure to put a space between it.
Okay. Something like that.
Oh no, the other way around. The dollar needs to be with the brace.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay. So echo PWD.
So as you see there, it is our print working directory. That's what we're doing. So what we're doing is, if you do up arrow twice for me, and then do a Control A.
Okay, and now we're gonna add something.
And then delete that hash. Yep, just delete the hash.
Okay. Some reason. Okay.
So what we're doing is that -v is called a volume mount. So what we're trying to do is we're going to volume mount the local print working directory, or that PWD, to that /vim. Do you remember that /vim directory that we created inside our container? So if you hit enter right now, go ahead and say okay.
Yeah, I allow.
There you go. Now, do you remember that command I told you to bring up the file explorer?
Yeah. Wait, what was it again?
It's :E is in Edward.
Oh yeah. Colon.
And Lando, that is a great point. Shouldn't I be using an image tag? And yes, as I said at the very beginning, one of the goals of this was to kind of show the process before getting to tagging. I was going to talk about tagging when we push this container somewhere. This is just a way to kind of walk through everything. But you are absolutely right. Using an image tag is a much better idea than using a SHA, because there's no way in hell you'd ever remember what that SHA means. Okay, yeah, so :E space period.
Mm-hmm.
And hit enter.
Yeah.
Hey, what's that justifile.txt right there? What's that? What's that? Go ahead and scroll down to it with the arrows. And hit enter.
I can enter it now?
Hey, that looks familiar. Yeah.
That's fun. Okay. Yeah. I get it.
So Yot, tell me what we just did. Tell me what we just did.
I guess we saved. I guess we saved the container with everything that was added to, that was saved to the project, and now we can actually grab it back and run it with Vim. If I'm right.
Almost. So the container we are running only has Vim installed on it. That is the only thing it does, and it has that /vim directory. What we did is we created something called a volume mount, that -v is in Victor, to our local directory, and told that container, whatever is in /vim in this thing, mount it to my local directory, which is that Docker file and that file there. So if we actually made a change to this right now, so hit I, and then type JJ is awesome. I don't know. Doesn't matter. And then space. Yep.
I have a typo. There.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, and then type or hit escape, and then type :WQ.
Oh, wait, let's get to the end of it.
Oh no, it's fine. WQ works anyway.
Oh, W. Okay. You said
W. So :WQ. Yep.
Yeah. WQ. Yeah.
Okay. Hit enter. And then because we quit out of it, we didn't actually have to quit. We could have just written to it. But if you go back up to just a file up there.
Mm-hmm. So now it affects my local directory.
Because you volume mounted it, the container knows about what's going on there. So when you start playing around with volume mounts and learning how to keep state, you have your container with whatever source code, whatever your application is that's stateless, and then you give it places to mount for caches or places that needs to read data from a database, or hopefully you have an off location database that you can just connect to through an API. And then the idea is a container is supposed to be a entity that will very rarely change, right? So that's why you tag it with a specific version and you don't have that massive SHA. So you know that version 1.00 of our code will always be version 1.00 of our code. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Nice. Okay, so just as Lando said a moment ago, there is a term called tagging. So let's talk about tagging for just a second. If you go back to that Docker, or type Docker space images -A for me.
Docker images space.
-A is an alpha.
Oh, -A.
Yep.
Docker images.
So -A is all images. So if you actually what?
I think before we go into this, I feel like I need some overview about the concept in general of Docker images, because this is the terminology that I hear all the time when people are talking about Docker. It sounds for me as a relatively new developer, Docker images I think is somewhere a little bit misleading, because we're not talking about image files, right?
Correct. So yes, let's crawl before we walk.
Okay.
So just so I have the example, if you hit the up arrow one more time and take off the -A for me, just hit enter.
Yeah.
And interesting, it's both. It should have been different, but that's fine. We're going to talk about that in a moment.
Okay.
So a Docker image first of all, it's an overloaded term. People use Docker images as a lot of different things. So you need to kind of understand context when people talk about it to make sure that you understand where they're coming from. For us, a Docker image is the entity or the base container, or the container that we've created that we are running. So when we do Docker run CentOS latest, if you notice right there at the bottom of that images, it says repository CentOS latest. That is the container or the Docker image that we are going to run and make that do the thing. As you notice that hello world, that is the exact same thing. That is a Docker image of doing that too. Now, because we, if you noticed, so a Docker image is the base container of what you're trying to do most of the time. Lando's a pretty good example here. Also,
a Docker image is more like a file system image, not a photograph, but a snapshot of the file system. That's a very okay. It's starting to make sense to me. Thank you.
The original implementation of a Docker image or Docker container was actually just a tarball. believe it or not, with C groups written around it. So that is a very accurate description of what's going on here. So if your tarball means nothing to you, we need to start working on Vim again. No, I'm kidding. I'm just being a dick. Okay, so we have all these containers. We have all these images and containers. As you see, we've got that Alpine Git there. We've got your Docker101 tutorial. You've got that Hello World, and you've got that CentOS. But let's talk about that top one there. It was create team 14 minutes ago. Hey, what did we do about 14 minutes ago?
Maybe we created the Docker file.
Yeah, we did the Docker build command. That's exactly right. So
okay.
if you do the up arrow a couple times for me.
Yep.
To get to the Docker run that we were talking about earlier. There we go. Now, that image ID or that SHA and that image ID should look relatively close to one another. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's Docker saying you built this image 14 minutes ago, and yes, it is 275 megs to run Vim, which is not good, but that's a different conversation for a different time.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're telling Docker, hey, run this image. But as Lando said a moment ago, we're never going to remember what that is. So we need to tag it. Okay. So what we're going to do is do Control A for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then delete from the 9 to the R in Docker for me.
From the 9 to R. Okay. Just Docker and the SHA.
Yep. And then type the word tag, T-A-G.
Yeah.
Space. And then do Control E. I think it's this way around. I never can remember. It's like doing an LA.
Yeah. You're right.
Space. And I'm assuming Yotam tab 9 is your handle on Docker Hub. Is that right?
I can't remember. I have to. It has to be the correct handle I chose there.
No, it doesn't. But I was gonna do one more step without having to do something else. But if you want to just call it Yotam, that's fine.
Okay.
Do Yotam / Vim maybe because it runs Vim, and then : latest because it's just a good habit to make sure you always put that in and hit enter for me. Nothing came back. That's good in computers, right? You never want errors to show up. And if you do that, Docker images for me again.
Docker images. The Docker images -A or just Docker images? Actually, it brings the same output.
Perfect. So there you go. So now we have the repository of Yotam /Vim with tag latest. So now if you go back all the way to the Docker run command.
Run command.
Yep.
This one?
Delete that SHA.
Okay. I think I can.
You can actually just.
This is not possible, right? No.
We could do some fun Vim stuff, but just do backspace. It's fine.
Okay.
/Vim.
Wait.
So :
Okay, from here?
Yep. /Vim, VIM.
Yeah. /Vim.
Space. Yotam /Vim, : latest.
Mm-hmm. : latest. Something like this, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And hit enter. There we go. We got our Vim. If we do Control or : E space period.
I didn't hear you there. Come again. : Yeah.
E is an Edward space period. Hit enter. And there we go. There's our two files again, just a file and our Docker file. To prove to you that by tagging it, instead of us needing to know that SHA, now we know that is that version of latest. You can also, instead of latest, do some ver in there if you want, or hell, you can even just put whatever name you want. It's just a tag. It doesn't mean anything. But for your own sanity, you should choose whatever path you go and stick to it, just like all versioning of all software. The next step would be to push this container to a registry. We are coming up to the top of the hour, and I know that you are many hours ahead of me in time. I want to be cognizant of that. Do you want to keep going, or do you want to just kind of wrap this up and do this another time?
It's up to you and the audience. I can we can go forward. I don't mind.
Okay.
It's not that late. It's almost it's only 8 p.m. here.
Okay. I want to be respectful of your time to make sure.
Thank you so much. No, it's fine. We can go.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and do that colon Q again for me, so we get out of Vim.
Yeah. Okay.
And there we go. We're back out. It's fine. Everything's great. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to push this to Docker Hub, because because now you know how to build a container yourself. You are now the developer. Hey, it works on my laptop, but now you need to get it working somewhere else. And
so everything we've done so far was saved locally on my machine.
Correct.
I mean, nothing went to the hub so far.
Correct. You have only ever you've packaged up Vim in essence, which I use Vim as the catch-all for your code. And one of the beauties of Docker and containerization is as long as you have a container runtime, whether it be the Docker desktop, Kubernetes, OpenShift, Nomad, as long as you have a container runtime and it adheres to the OCI spec, which is standard with Cryo, I believe, you can run this container anywhere. So what you could do is actually push this up to Docker Hub, and I can share my screen and I can pull it down and run it on my laptop to show that it actually works anywhere that the container runtime works.
Let's do it.
Perfect. Okay. So next thing I need you to do is I need you to sign up for a Docker Hub account. We could also use Quay, but Quay, it's not hard. It's just another step, and Docker Hub is just easier in this example. So can you mind if you have signed up for Docker Hub? Yes.
Yep, I think so. When I added the desktop.
Okay, find out what your login and your password is there, and when you're ready, just go ahead and just give me a shout.
Okay.
My throat's killing me. I need to drink some water.
Oh, go for it. I have a jar of coffee here that I make myself before every live stream.
I love it.
Otherwise, they fall on the floor.
Oh, I respect that, my friend. I do. While Yot's doing that, if anyone has any questions or thoughts, please don't hesitate to throw them in the chat. I am trying to pay attention to it, but when walls of text come by, sometimes it's hard to pivot so quickly.
Okay, so what do I need besides my I need like what my username and password?
Yes. So when you're ready, type Docker space login for me.
Docker login.
Yep. And this is a standard way to log in. Oh, you already have credentials. Perfect. Is that Yotem tab 9? Is that your username? Okay.
That's me.
Okay, so if you go ahead and do the Control R for me. Excuse me. And type tag, TAG. There we go. And then just use the right arrow to move all the way over to the Yotem over there for me.
Okay. Oh.
And then put that tab 9 in there for me.
Got it. Tab 8.
Nice. Go ahead and enter for me. So what we did there is we just tagged it again with a different tag. So if you do Docker images, just to prove to you that we haven't done anything too crazy.
Got it.
You should see it up there. Let's just make sure that everyone sees it.
Let's see. Wait a second.
Oh no, you haven't pushed it yet. Well, just do Docker image. Do Docker images for me.
Docker images.
Yep. And as you can see there, we've got the Yotem.
There it is.
Yep. Perfect. So now what you can do is Docker push push,
yeah,
and then do yotem tab9/vim, and then because you just have latest, you can do versions if you want. Go ahead and do :latest, so you learn the best way to do it to say that this is the version we're going to push up there. And then we're like, okay, cool, we're pushing it, and because Vim is about 65 megs, that's about right. It's pushing up that layer of the container because it only has CentOS. It already has CentOS there, so it's like, oh, I don't need to push that. All I need to push is the container, the layer that you made changes of. There was someone who mentioned this earlier. Give me 2 seconds here. There was. Oh, where'd it go? Somebody made a joke about optimizing layers.
I'm waiting to see.
There is some backup tools, terminology.
It's like pushing a single git commit. It's only pushing the newest changes. Makes sense?
Exactly. Yes. Figuring out the layering scheme, optimizing layers.
It's taking too long though.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It shouldn't take too much longer. It's fine. We're good. This is a good opportunity to talk about layering and as Lando just said a minute ago. And I know your name isn't Lando, but I'm going to call you Lando because it's close enough. It is just pushing up the new changes, and optimizing layers is a dark art. There's a black magic to it, and there's a whole there we go. Managed to stage builds are fun for optimizing layer side. There's many different ways to make sure you're not shipping gigs worth of data that isn't useful. This is also where the Python containers and the Node containers out there, that's where these types of things come into play, because being that we're using CentOS, we're faking out virtualization, right, to kind of walk through it so we had everything we needed. But if you're running a Python app or a Node app or a Go app for that matter, you don't need all that stuff. You don't need Bash, right? You don't need HTTPD or Vim, because you just need to run your application. And that's where those containers come from, the Python app, where all it does is you put your code in /srv or whatever it is, and the entry point and the way the Docker file is written will run whatever is sitting there. So then you don't need to think about what's going on, is because you just copy your code into that container, and congratulations, your application is running. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. That's so.
Awesome.
And okay, so I guess we'll need to see how it's done. I wonder if now that. Go ahead.
I actually, because I use Quay, being that I work at IBM, and it's a Red Hat product. I don't actually, by default, Quay's registries are set to private, and you have to turn them on to public. If you want to bring up your Docker Hub onto the screen here right now, you should see our Vim/latest inside of your Docker Hub.
Let me just hide my bookmarks bar.
There you go.
Okay.
And if you go ahead and refresh that page for me.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
Perfect. And it looks like somebody's already downloaded it. So if you'd like, just to prove that this is actually doing what we say it's doing, give me 2 seconds here. And what I'll do is, perfect. I will go ahead and share my screen. And share screen. And if anything embarrassing pops up while I'm doing this, I apologize ahead of time. Originally, I was not planning on sharing my screen. Let's see here. I will go ahead and take Yot away and add myself. That should be, it might be a little bit bigger. All right. So if you see here, Docker PS, did you see I have nothing running? That PS command was the process as we played with earlier. As you'll see here, I have a few Docker images. I might do this quite a bit.
A few.
But if I go ahead and do Docker, so there's, if you notice on the website, there was a Docker pull command, and that actually pulls the container down, but doesn't run it. If you do the Docker run dash, or actually, yeah, Docker run dash it, it was a Yot tab 9
/vim
latest, and then because I want to show this working, v $pwd to vim. Go ahead and throw this up there. It's like, hey, that's not there, but I'm pulling that down directly from your registry right now.
So every container that I'm pushing to Docker Hub is public by default?
Yes, that's where they make their money, to turn things private. So as you see, I ran that. I just ran it. It brought in Vim just like I wanted to, and I bring up the container, and this is my local, my local stuff. And that was an API key. I'm going to have to change that API key now. Great. But anyway,
yeah.
So
you can just move it to the other screen first. Oh no, it's going to stay there. Okay.
Yeah. Someone's going to take advantage of me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and roll that key as soon as I'm done with this stream. Actually, while I'm talking here, I'll keep going. So as you see there, we pulled the container down. I just used the tag. I didn't use the SHA to do it. It was just one simple command. And how quickly already, and if you refresh that page, you should see at least 2 pulls, if I'm correct on this.
Yeah, you're right.
3 pulls. Oh, perfect. So that's it, right? Like that's us now. Now you can share your code to do that. So let's take one last final step in here, which would be we've done Vim. So do you have a very simple Node app? Because I know you're a Node developer, correct? You have a simple Node app that
I happen to have something made by your guys.
Ah.
Okay, let's take the B Travels node.
Okay. Oh, I actually just pulling that up and maybe walking through their Docker file would be a very good idea.
Okay. Let's do it. Let me just find it here for a second. You know what? I think I'm supposed to have it here. No, I don't.
API keys.
Okay. So we have this node project here.
Perfect. So there's a lot going on in this application, and that's understandable. But what we're going to do is, if you go ahead and find their Docker file for me.
Docker file.
I believe it's under the Docker directory. There it is.
Do you see it here? Oh.
Yep. Scroll down.
Down. Docker file.
Right
yeah.
There. So as you see here, what they do is they use the Alpine tagged version of Node 12.11.0. So Alpine is another base container operating system. Well, it's an operating system, but it's a really, really stripped down operating system that has the bare bones of everything inside of it. And then the node probably has the entry point of running whatever is in the main file there to run. And as you see, it just copies the .yarn directory, copies the packages, and then throws in that all that yarn stuff, which I don't really fully know because I'm not a Node developer. but the idea is it's there for making life a little bit easier. Instead of using CentOS, it just runs the thing. So if we go ahead and go back to your terminal, and go ahead and enter a couple times. If you do a Docker space build period,
build.
And as you can see here, just as we were doing earlier, it pulls down the Alpine layers. As you can see, there's many more layers involved in this because it is a much larger thing. It'll build it just like we. So, that was surprisingly fast. I'm not going to question that. But I swear it took a lot longer than that, but that's fine. So now we know how to build another container, and we could do this Docker images, do Docker images again. You'll see that 0056 on there at the very top, as you see 36 seconds ago.
Yeah.
That is the container we built. So we could run that. Again, you probably wanted to tag it if you're doing it locally, so it's easier so you don't have to remember that SHA. You can do that Docker build. If you do that Docker build.t and then delete the period for me.
Mm-hmm.
Do a -t as in Tommy.
Yeah.
Space IBM/B travels : latest.
IBM/ I think it's the we're naming it now.
Yeah, just so you can see, you can do this all in one command. latest. Oh no, you yep, sure.
Latest.
And then
Siri
space.
is taking over my. Okay. Bye, Siri. Docker build -t IBM. Yeah. Space period.
And then yep. And then if you do that Docker images again. As you can see there, now we have that repository and the version. We could easily change that latest. So we don't have to do the tag in another command. We can do it in the Docker build. So when it's done, then you just do a Docker run of that, and it'll make the things happen there, which is pretty neat. FYI, if you didn't know, Docker Hub will not allow you have to have at least 4 characters for your username. So /IBM/ does not exist on Docker Hub. We learned that one the hard way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Legacy reasons, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. It's always legacy reasons.
Awesome. All right, yep. So where do you want to go from here? Well, do you want to talk a little bit about Docker Compose real quick? Or do you want to, is there something else you're curious about with containers here?
Do we still have audience here? Anyone wants to guide the conversation upon request?
Good opportunity to.
Are we all alone?
All right. No, we got some viewers. We got some viewers, which is good.
Anything we should focus on, but also distracted. Okay. I think it's up to you, JJ.
I think we can. I think we can wrap up. We've pushed pretty long, which is good. Well, let's at least talk about Docker Compose. Okay. Just so we can at least mention it to make sure that people kind of understand where it fits and how life gets a little bit better when you start going with Docker Compose.
So what is it?
Go ahead. Yes, good question. So if you go ahead and close out that terminal for me, and then open up that Docker Compose file that we just saw a second ago.
The Docker Compose, yeah.
Yep. And then go ahead and close that out. There we go. So I'm not going to, if you play with Kubernetes at all, this should look very familiar. But what Docker Compose is, in essence, is a wrapper around a bunch of Docker run commands. So you can programmatically programmatically build up a whole application stack. In this case, btravels has many microservices. They're all different Docker containers. So when you run Docker Compose, it'll make sure and spins up all the environmental variables specific to it. Make sure that there's a dependency tree, so you like don't spin up your application before your database or your Redis instance is up, for instance. Spitfire, I just saw your question. Give me 2 minutes here, and I will go ahead and answer that for you. The beauty of Docker Compose is that it really does. You just do Docker as soon as you get your Docker Compose.yaml put together. All you got to do is Docker Compose space dash capital D as in dog up, and it'll walk through that YAML file, which is we're seeing right in front of us. If you scroll down just a little bit, so we have line 47 right at the top, right there. That destination is actually a pretty good example of the base Docker Compose right there, which is the build to make sure that it builds the correct where the Docker file for the application is. The ports, we didn't actually talk about mounting ports. We just talked about volume mounts, but it's the same principle. You tell the Docker CLI or the Docker command, I want to map this port for my container to my host port. So this, in this case, 9001 would expose 9001 to your local machine. So you can access port 9001 on localhost, and it'll get to that container, which makes life significantly easier. And then the depends on, again, is the way to make sure that base is already up and running before it starts building up that. If you scroll up just a little bit, you'll notice that there is, back down. Where'd it go? Oh, up.
No, sorry.
No worries. Keep going up. A little bit more. There we go. Okay. As you see right there, that environment, it gives environmental variables to your container. If you believe in the 12-factor app and a manifesto or whatever the hell that thing's called, and you use environmental variables to switch out options, this is a way to make sure you're doing everything locally. And then when Docker Compose starts, it injects all those environmental variables. With the Node, Python, Rubies of the world, that makes life significantly easier. So you don't have that tied into your Docker file.
To me, it seems like a mandatory stage in the process, like having to compose whatever application you want to run in like elsewhere. You have to set the rules. Otherwise it's just chaos, isn't it?
Exactly. You're absolutely right. Sounds like you're a better practiced developer than I am. That's for damn sure.
I don't know.
But there's a lot of different neat knobs and dials. If we actually go back to the terminal real quick, and scroll that up and go. If you type, go ahead and type Docker Compose. Oh, Oscar, I like it. Oscar.
Yeah.
Docker Compose. Dash Compose.
Dash Compose.
Oh no, sorry, all one word.
All one word. Docker Compose. Just like this?
Yep. And then type up UP. And enter.
Goes up.
There we go. Hey, Lost Algorithm. How you doing? It's always good to see you joining us. We are just wrapping everything up. Everything's going great like normally though. But as you see here, with Docker Compose, what we're doing is we're pulling all the different containers down that are required for that same Docker Compose file above, and then it'll actually build the application locally and then have all the mounts pointed and everything like that. So even though we did everything on the command line and only played with a very basic Docker file, layering Docker Compose on top of it allows you to actually run, I dare say, something more production-like, which you can easily ship around to your friends. Oh, well, something went funny there. Let's not worry about that. That's a different time so another problem for a different time.
Okay.
That's Yeah, it just looks like it's looking for something that isn't there. I don't know why, but I'm not going to sit here and try to debug that for you. It also could be B-travels might be private for some reason. But anyway, long story short, when you build up your Docker Compose file and how it builds everything, you can start shipping your whole stack, application stack along with it. So then developers can easily just do a Docker up or Docker Compose up and then have a working stack of the application, usually with the most up-to-date code inside the Git repository. Because there's nothing stopping you, as you see with B-travels here, having your Docker Compose file already there. And you can do you can run with it pretty far. Anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense, actually.
Nice. So we did have one question earlier, which was from Spitfire. Should I be using the WSDL for building your Docker containers? That is a great question. So yep, and that's just to follow up here. I'm on Windows, which is why I asked about the WSDL. Excuse me. So from what I've been told, I don't use WSDL myself. I have the privilege of using Mac and Linux for everything, but I do have my partner in crime streamer, Paul. He uses the WSDL pretty extensively to do his builds, and again, as we said at the very beginning of the stream, as long as it adheres to the OCI spec and is compiled for the correct architecture, it doesn't matter where it runs or where it's built, as long as it adheres and it adheres to it. And obviously WSDL does. So you have no problem to deal with that. And to the point, again, I know you said to say you use Lawnmower, but I'm going to say Lando. WSDL 2 is actually recommended for Docker on Windows, and I have read that myself too. So if you do play in the Windows world, you're using WSDL 2 that ties into that VM. I think it is a VM that runs Linux, is a much better idea. So cool. Yeah. What can I answer for you now, Yot? Or do you feel dangerous with Docker now?
I feel like I'm going to play with this all night long now, and I'm not gonna show up to the office tomorrow because I'm very much intrigued. I have to. I'm gonna watch Francesco's videos all night about Docker.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, I feel a little bit ashamed that I didn't play around with it until now. I mean, everything that I've been working on so far was mostly with Git commands, and everybody's talking about Docker now. And I'm so glad that you were kind enough to take the time and walk me through it, even though that's still very confusing to me. But I'm starting to get a sense of the powers of this tool.
Absolutely, and there's the next logical step after you feel comfortable with building Docker Compose files and some, like, if you find some little toy app that you have that you do for demos or whatever, if you can build a Docker Compose file and a Docker file to containerize that, the next story honestly is to start playing with something like OpenShift or Kubernetes, because Docker Compose file can get you pretty far. I even know people and companies that use Docker Compose files on VMs inside the cloud to run their actual application stack, right? That's how they do it. They just change out the variables with like the hosted database or whatever they're using. Obviously, as a OpenShift or Kubernetes developer advocate, I try to get them to move over to, Kubernetes or OpenShift. But there are some really good successes with it, and there's nothing stopping you from going down that path. But it is worth knowing to start talking about using the next layer, which again is the container runtime. So maybe after a little bit of time of getting playing around with this, we can actually start talking about how you would convert your little toy app into something like OpenShift, which would be another hour walking through the differences between what a deployment is, how you make sure your container is actually running properly, some good, liveliness probes and readiness checks, which are really, really important, especially, and I say this with all love and support, Java apps in containers can get weird because of the way what is a WAR file, but in essence a container. So you're running a container inside of a container, and you have the Java runtime inside. It's just when you start getting into the deep philosophy of how to get containers working in production, you start learning about the technical debt choices you've made that you didn't realize that are already there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but luckily enough for me, I barely ever work with Java files, so I think I'm gonna be fine.
Yep. Just as Lando said, this is perfect. He had the pleasure of Dockerizing Java app for once. It needed 2 multi-stage builds just to make sense. For the people who have extensive Docker knowledge, that is a nightmare. That is just a nightmare.
So the main tip would be just to stay away, right?
Well, there's some enterprises out there that still use that Java stuff, man. See, sometimes I have to talk about it. But anyway, this is great, Yot, and it's perfect. We're coming right up at the half of the hour, which is a great time to stop. So
I feel very grateful, and thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who joined this live stream. And I hope I didn't embarrass myself too much. And JJ, you are the man.
I appreciate that, sir. And thank you so much. And I look forward to us talking again in the future.
Me too, man. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.